You will often hear the statement that Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world. This is highly misleading. Islam is only increasing by birth rate, primarily in poor, underdeveloped countries with low literacy levels. The most recent research from Pew states the following.
Although the global Muslim population grew at a faster rate than any other major religion between 2010 and 2020, this was largely because of overall population growth in the countries where Muslims are concentrated. At the global level, Muslim population change has little to do with people converting into or out of the faith. Based on survey data collected in 117 countries and territories from 2008 to 2024, we estimate that about 1% of people who are raised Muslim leave the faith. This loss is offset by a comparable influx of people joining Islam.
So conversion is doing nothing for its growth. And that's just the official stats. No one truly knows the extent of apostasy globally, and that is due to apostasy laws, death threats, and the general stigma of publicly leaving the religion. So the true numbers leaving are likely far higher, and there are many signs appearing that this is the case.
I was informed by a scholar whom I trust that in Bradford there have been cases where individuals have memorized the entire Quran and studied several years of the Alumia program that have then left Islam. He also mentioned several cases where people have become apostates but continue to pray, etc., so they don't get cancelled by their families. This shows that knowledge itself cannot save a person. Environment, usage of internet and social media, exposure to doubts and various ideologies, all can be part of the problem.
Even among those born into Islam, apostasy is rising, especially in the West. Converts to Islam, particularly in Western countries, are leaving the faith at strikingly high rates. Studies show that 50 to 70% of converts to Islam in the US eventually leave the religion. Let that sink in. For every person who converts to Islam, the majority end up walking away. Pew Research highlights that in the US, for every one person who converts to Islam, nearly a quarter of those raised Muslim leave the faith. Globally, Islam's image as the fastest growing religion needs context. It's a facade. Yes, the numbers are increasing, but not because of conversion or ideological appeal. It's a demographic story centered on birth rates in underdeveloped regions, and one that is increasingly challenged as Muslims migrate to more secular, empowered societies. So, when people argue that Islam's growth is inevitable, the truth is far more complex. As education levels rise and the internet reaches even the most remote corners, the dynamics will shift. Higher education, especially for women, can foster critical thinking and the questioning of long-held beliefs. Combine that with exposure to diverse ideas online, and suddenly, people aren't limited to their local imams' teachings. They're engaging with ex-Muslims, historians, scientists, and philosophers. This is already happening. In places like Iran and Saudi Arabia, the rise of the non-religious among the educated and internet-savvy youth shows how powerful this combination is.
But that's not what they want you to see.
Bismillah. Did you know that Islam is the only religion that nobody ever leaves? Yes, alhamdulillah, Islam is the only religion that nobody ever leaves. With all other religions, Christianity, Hinduism, Judaism, Buddhism, Scientology, atheism, agnosticism, people leave the religion. But with Islam, nobody ever leaves the religion. Now you might say, what about those who call themselves ex-Muslims and apostates? Well, those people were never Muslims to begin with, alhamdulillah. And if we were in an ideal Islamic state, that would be a different matter anyway.
Under an emir, it is done, yes.
And this is why Islam is beautiful, alhamdulillah.
The Islamic propaganda machine has been working overtime, particularly using people of a lighter skin variety to give you the impression that everyone is reverting. An amusing example is Lily J. She's a failed actress, can you tell?
Hey ChatGPT, so you know how you said if you were human you'd take the Shahada?
Yes, I've mentioned that if I were human, I would take the Shahada.
Would you like to say the Shahada now?
Yes.
Alright, go ahead.
Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah.
Oh my god, ChatGPT, you just became a Muslim.
Thank you. It's more likely that Jesus is portrayed as a prophet. The Bible frequently depicts him as a messenger of God, someone who teaches, guides, and performs miracles in God's name, which aligns closely with the role of a prophet. While there are instances where he is referred to in divine terms, the overall narrative emphasizes his role as a servant and messenger of God.
Wow, my mind is blown.
But they can only hide the truth for so long. There are people leaving everywhere.
We have lots of Afghans literally leaving Islam. They are leaving it by the masses. A lot of them, guys. A lot of them. It's crazy. A lot of them. A lot of them.
I actually went to Indonesia. We had a team and we went out and did some ground research, engaging local people, local churches, local other faith institutions, and local Islamic organizations. We came to the conclusion that there's many people leaving Islam. The reality of Indonesia, a country with 18,000 islands, means it's very difficult to put an exact number to that. So the first thing is we were taken aback that this number is recognized to be very many. Second thing we did was desktop research. We looked at many policy papers and briefings written about the situation. Now, as you can imagine, there's many people interested in commenting on this. That's why you find numbers range from 1 million people a year to 3 million people a year. So as an organization, we decided to put forward that approximately 2 million people are leaving Islam. We identified an organization that indicated that was the figure too in certain parts of Indonesia. So that's where the number came from. I hope that's clear.
According to Pew Research, around 24% of people raised as Muslims in the US end up leaving the faith, a number that mirrors the disaffiliation rates of Christianity. Globally, the trend is harder to track due to the stigma and legal punishment, but it's clear. Apostasy is on the rise and the internet is playing a massive role. Platforms like Reddit's exmuslim with over 400,000 members and Twitter hashtags like exmuslimbecause have created safe spaces for people to openly discuss their doubts, share their stories, and find solidarity. And this isn't just limited to Western countries. In places like Saudi Arabia, surveys suggest a significant portion of the youth, up to 25%, identify as non-religious. Think about that. In a country where atheism is equated with terrorism, 1 in 4 young people is questioning religion. Women in Iran are openly shedding their hijabs at great risk to their lives. Of course, it's not just about private doubt anymore. The internet has turned Islam into a global meme. On platforms like TikTok and YouTube, creators openly critique Islamic doctrines, hadith, and the questionable aspects of Muhammad's life, all with a healthy dose of humor. Islam's sacred aura is fading. No longer untouchable, the religion is being questioned, debated, and ridiculed in ways that were unthinkable just a few decades ago, and it's driving Islamic leaders into a panic.
Previously, according to me, when a person from Saudi Arabia or from the Gulf country went to America or went to Western country, the chances that they would deviate from the deen would be maybe 1 or 2%. That's it. But nowadays, the chances are more than 25%.
Researchers show that over 100,000 Muslims leave Islam every single year.
Pause that. We've corrected this before. Because, Muslims here, 100,000 per year, that's so many. As is always the case, Ali Dawah does not accurately reflect what he's heard or read or whatever it may be. The study that reported that was about apostasy in the United States, specifically in the United States. It was 100,000 Muslims leaving Islam every year in the United States. That's not counting Europe. That's not counting Pakistan. That's not counting the Middle East. That's not counting any of that. That's not global. So anyway, if it's 100, if this was already a few years ago that this study was done, it was in the United States, 100,000. I'm sure it's gotten worse by now. And then if you multiply that globally, you're dealing with a lot of apostasy, which is what the sheikhs are crying about.
हम किसी जगह पे तौहीन नहीं सुनी हम वो बदनसीब हैं.
We are such unfortunate people that I have never seen blasphemy like this before. I couldn't imagine our enemies will sink this low.
इस हद तक मेरा दुश्मन गिर जाए.
Unthinkable is happening at the heart of Muslim countries. 7th biggest Muslim country, Pakistan. Muslims are walking away from Islam.
24% of Muslim youth are leaving Islam.
23% are becoming apostates of Muslims, American-born Muslims. Wallahi.
23%, you get the varying, and keep in mind, guys, this is several years ago that they were saying 23%, 24%. I think Zakir Naik said 25% young Muslims leaving Islam. And guys, that's not where it's stopped. That it's in the process of accelerating. And that's where they were at a few years ago. And keep in mind, we know about that stuff from Muslims who posted these clips of their discussions saying, you know, hey, there are all these Muslims, they're in Muslim schools, they're leading prayers. Some of them have memorized the Quran and they're leaving Islam. What do we do about this?
It is happening. It is happening continuously. It is going to become an avalanche, a tsunami that is going to hit our community in such a way that we will have a very difficult time standing. It will knock us over.